Hi guys, welcome back to the property classroom, okay, with me, Kimberly Chia, and the PropertyLimBrothers, Melvin and Adrian.
Hello.
Hi Kimberly.
We
Hello.
also have lawyer Cannis Seng.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that I'm least familiar with, okay, which is the most expensive thing to buy in Singapore, I think lah. Probably the most expensive thing to buy in Singapore, which is landed property. Yeah, so talking about that, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about so many kinds of landed, right? I mean, I've heard of like semi-detached, terrace, GCB. What's the difference?
So there's three main categories of landed homes. Firstly, we have the terraces. So terraces forms a row of houses, and at the end of the corner, they are called the corner terraces.
Okay.
And you have those in the middle, they are called the inter terraces.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next tier would be the semi-detached, and they usually comes in a pair. So they share one central dividing wall that separates the two properties.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
those are the semi-detached.
But it's still two houses?
It's still two houses, always in two houses.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have the detached home where they are the standalone detached home.
Wow.
So we call them bungalows, and they are usually very exclusive because they are by themselves alone. And of course, you have the top of the cream where they are called the GCB, the good class bungalows, where they are the top of the tier.
So bungalows and good class bungalows, the difference is the size of it?
Of
like
course,
how big it is?
Yes. So to classify a GCB and a normal detached home, of course, it's based on the URA land zoning.
Okay.
And of course, there's specification and criteria and requirements to form a good class bungalow.
Ah, wow. Okay, so I know all this is very expensive now. How about 10 years later, Adrian? Do you think I can afford one? Like, how much money do I need to have to buy
Of course, definitely you
terrace
can
house?
afford one.
You think I can? You sure?
Of course you sure you can.
Okay. How much do you think landed property will cost in 5 to 10 years time maybe?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think landed properties are, even in the past 10 years, they have already separated themselves in terms of this price index. Yeah, so since about 2013, we have seen landed pricing moved up against condos and apartments. So basically, when we compare landed residential price index versus non-landed residential price index, there is now a gap in between for the past 2013, so that's about 8 years already. I think the key thing is because in 2013 there was this particular cooling measure that came out, and there was this introduction of additional buyer stamp duty for foreign buyers. Yeah, and then from there we start to see that distinction on Singaporeans' purchasing preferences and power. So landed properties, very firstly, is a scarce and limited supply in nature. There's only about 70,000 landed properties in Singapore. So by itself is already a very scarce commodity. And over the past 2 years, ever since the COVID circuit breaker, we see that disparity rise up in terms of preference for outdoor and indoor space. So a lot of buyers, they are out hunting for homes that are larger in size, and landed falls into this particular category. I think in 5 to 10 years time, what might happen is that based on what we've seen over the past 18 months, I think more and more, so this is going to be a particular category that will be on its own league. Yeah, so to afford in 5 to 10 years time, I think if you can afford right now, then buy right now. Yeah, compared to waiting for 5 to 10 years time, because I think it will be even higher in terms of its price index.
Yeah.
And back to the first episode where Cannis mentioned that it moved in 5 years. Landed properties really tend to move in once in every 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and for the past 10, 20 years, it has risen very gradually, and now it's moving up very aggressively.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been reading the news, and I think property in Singapore, the prices are really increasing all the time. So I understand for if we buy like a landed property, right? We buy the land, so the land is ours, is it, Kenny? Yes,
Generally, you buy the land in relation to this property, but of course the agents. Okay. we'll always talk about the PSF and versus the built-in versus the actual land area of the land of the property. So I think they can tell you more about that.
So we categorize into two forms of landed. One is the pure landed property. Pure landed property, basically you're buying the land, and at the same time you're buying the structure sitting on top of the land. When we talk about pure landed properties, whether inter-terrace corner, semi-D or detached, we always talk about the land PSF, the land cost per square foot. And of course, what you get in return is you own the land plus you own the structure. There's another form of landed property which is called a strata landed property. They behave quite like a strata condominium because we don't talk about the land cost, we talk about the built-in area.
Right. Is it something like townhouses or
Yeah,
something like that?
Townhouse, cluster house, strata landed properties, they fall into that strata category where we talk about the strata holding.
Right.
Yeah, so you own the strata space, but pure landed, you own the land. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, right, I own the land, so the land is mine. But let's say, okay, in Singapore, it's hardly, might not happen lah. But if like there's an earthquake that happened, or like the tree drop on the house, I mean, I don't know. But then what happens? Like, who's liable for it? I have to be liable for it myself?
Unfortunately, okay, if you own a landed property, okay, essentially it means that you take care by yourself, both the exterior and the interior of the property. So maybe we should talk about insurance the next time round.
So it's insurance.
Correct.
Right.
Because generally most loans will specify some form of insurance. But generally speaking, insurance also doesn't cover act of God sort of scenario. Earthquakes will be exempted from insurance, etc. So you're on your own.
Yeah, but I think it's fine lah. Singapore is very safe. We're like no natural disasters at all. Okay, so how come, right, sometimes when I drive through like very nice like bungalow estates, right, then I see some of them, like some are shorter, 1 story only, but some can go up to 4. Like, is that a personal preference or anything?
So actually landed properties, they are classified in their own zoning. So if it's a 2-story landed zone, then you can build up to 2.5 story. Yeah, and so if it's a 3-story landed homes, you can technically build up to 3.5 story. Of course, you still have your basement that you can build.
Got basement as well.
You can maximize.
Correct. So that's where you come. So that's where you have 4 stories. 4 stories plus the basement. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so you don't pay extra. You only pay for the renovation lah, but you don't have to pay more technically to like buying the space or something like that.
So if the zoning allows you to go up to 3-story, that means you can build up to 3.5. You don't have to pay extra tax or anything. Basically, all you need to do is you need to, of course, pay for your own construction. So it depends on at the point of purchase, what kind of house is that, what kind of conditions that. If do you have to do a total rebuild, meaning that you tear down, do the piling from scratch? Do you have to? Are you able to preserve the piling and structure and just do a reconstruction? Or maybe you go for A&A, or maybe just interior renovation. So it all depends how much size do you want to maximize. So newer houses, usually they are already maximized in size, like full-on 3.5. Maybe even more maximized will be 3.5 with basement. So it does depend on the existing structure that you go for and see whether does it suit your current requirements or not.
Right. Okay, so let's say I want to do I buy the house, then I want to do like a big renovation, and then suddenly my neighbor come in and like have like a dispute with me and they're not happy with whatever I've done. Is it like can fight in or something? I don't know.
Don't fight.
Don't fight. Okay.
I think there were some instances that were recorded in the media and whatnot, of certain families having disputes and things like that. So generally speaking, what you do within your own space, within the parameters of your own property, it's up to you lah, what you want to do within your own space. The rule of thumb is that this is something that must not affect your external neighbours in a very prejudicial way. So for example, you're free to do what you want within your own property. But for example, if you start to blatantly speaking, like run around naked, with the windows all open and everything, so there will be laws that basically say that it's your own space, but you can't do that.
Yes. I think it has happened before. I read it in the news. A few years ago, I think.
Yeah. So, but generally speaking, private property, landed property per se, you do have a large amount of discretion as to what you want to do. So that's the appeal.
Right. Okay, so I know people who actually go for private landed properties because they want the privacy.
Yes.
They want like the functionality of their own land and own house to do things, right? So then we were saying just now that the land prices are increasing. So how, if 10 to 15 years later I want to buy, how can I try to afford a landed property?
I gotta answer.
Become a property agent.
Maybe. No, okay, I think my question is rather more like, does location matter? So if I buy somewhere in Bukit Timah, I'm sure that's going to be very expensive.
Definitely.
But if I buy outskirts a bit, would that be cheaper?
Yes, yeah. So Singapore works in a very interesting way. The cream of the crop is definitely D9, 10, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so landed properties within that zone is, of course, one of the most expensive ones. As you move outskirts towards the suburban areas, we call it the RCR zone, which is the rest of central region, as well as the OCR zone, which is the out of central region. So suburban areas, if you move outwards, maybe towards the northeast, very popular estates are D19, or if you can go towards the Seletar estate, or you go towards maybe towards the Springleaf estate. So I think outer core areas, there are properties that are affordable in certain ranges, but of course, you always move from the center outwards. So as the prices in the core areas gets more expensive, there's a spillover effect. The other spillover effect is that if the entry level of landed properties, which are the inter-terraces, starts to heat up in terms of pricing, then it also has another downwards spillover effect from the bottom up. So like in the past 18 months, a lot of condo owners, they sell their condo properties, move to a landed, or maybe from HDB properties, they move straight to a landed. Usually they will enter into the inter-terraces space. And when that range of prices starts to go up in tandem, then it increases the overall range of the whole landed spectrum. And that will push the semi-D upwards, that will push the detached upwards as well. Yeah, so that's what's happening. So I would say that usually people will hunt from inter-terraces first if they're upgrading. Then second tier is that you can look at different estates to hunt for something that suits your range of entry price.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I will work hard. I will work hard and hopefully one day I'll be able to earn a landed property.
Yeah, believe you definitely can. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having trust in me. Thanks for sharing.
Thank
you,
you.
Melvin.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Adrian. Thank you, Cannis.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you.